Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde. Hello, my loves. Well, today is going to be a very unusual podcast, one that I've kind of alluded to a few times over the last few episodes. But today I have a guest, and he is my third ex-husband, Mr. Paul Burkhardt. You welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So today we're going to do something a little bit different because I've had a lot of men coming to me and a lot of women coming to me who are going through awakenings and they don't know how to articulate to their husband what's happening with them. And their husbands have either no belief in what they are doing or what they are feeling, receiving, and don't know how to handle them. And while we may not have all the answers on today's show, and one of the issues we're probably going to run into is my ex, Paul here. I don't have to refer to him as my ex-husband. Paul has memory issues and never remembers anything. So this will
What are you
be
talking about?
interesting.
What are we talking about? I'm sorry.
This will be interesting. So,
I'll
but
do my
anyway,
best.
I've had a lot of people coming to me asking me how we navigated it, and we did not do a great job. But we're going to talk about it
Oh,
today
yeah.
because hopefully it helps somebody, and if it doesn't, it might be entertaining. So we're just going to dive in. Um, so most people know my story who have read my book. They know my awakening started in 2008, and I didn't really know what was happening to me back then.
Right.
I just knew that it led me into I don't know who the hell I am. I went through a dark night. I got a divorce and I wanted to up and change my whole life and came running to you. Literally, I moved
I
cross country. I
don't know if
sold
it was
everything
running,
I
but
owned.
I mean, it took me even 6 months just to even reply.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fun. We should probably tell that story too. So, how we met is interesting. So, I was still married.
Oh my God.
I was still married to Dave, my second husband, and we were at the I had just come out of my dark night of the soul. And when I came out of my dark night of the soul, I literally had this yearning to know who I was. And I took it fucking so literal that I signed up for ancestry.com and did my whole family tree on both sides. And back then, when you were on Facebook at the same time as you were doing things, you would get this little window on the side that would pop up, be like, "Do you know me?" And he was there. It said Paul Burkhardt, right? And he was easy on the eyes, and his last name was Burkhardt. That's my mother's maiden name. That's why I kept Burkhardt. And so obviously I was married. I wasn't messaging him for anything shady. I was just like, "Hey, are you related to Donald Burkhardt?" And I never heard back from him. And in that time, it was like 2 months later that I ended up leaving my husband. It was, I moved out and then um, I guess it was 6 or 8 months. I think it was like 6 months
It's
later.
still like 6 months. If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, and look, if I actually go back and look, it's still there. I never
Yeah, I have a
deleted it.
screenshot somewhere of the conversation of our chat, our original
Right.
chat.
So,
Um,
and yeah, I saw the message. I don't know how I found it, but it was just happened to show up that, hey, are you related to? And I'm like,
no, but I wish I was,
oh, yeah, all
which
right.
is clever,
Look,
right?
no,
But it's
and
kind of weird.
you have to see it from my point of view. I was single. I'd been single for
Quite a
what?
long time.
Quite, it was at least 4 years. You see this beautiful woman, uh, blonde hair, green eyes. Not that I could tell because I'm colorblind, but
You
that's
did get
another
to see them
story.
eventually, but that's another story.
Yes. Um, and I'm like, damn. And of course she's in California, which is where I lived previously.
Which is another
Before,
side note, by the way. His best
yeah,
friend in San Diego, him and I went to fucking high school together, and we had friends in common. So that
all
whole
of us.
time he
Yeah.
lived in San Diego, somehow we never crossed paths.
No,
And
no,
I'll be honest, if we had, I probably wouldn't have given him the time of day because
no, because I'm
back then I
short.
was shallow and I needed a 6 foot minimum. So he wouldn't have even been, I would have thought, "Oh, you're cute, but you're too short for me." I mean, literally, that's probably what
Right.
would have happened. So
But then this whole thing happened, and we ended up
We became
talking,
friends and we talked all the time. We FaceTimed all the time.
right?
And both of us still, like, we weren't in a committed relationship. We both were still dating or seeing people. We just
Oh yeah,
always stayed,
absolutely.
we were always just flirting with each other, talking to each other. Like, we developed a real relationship. And then you came out, Eric flew you out, and you spent a week. After that week, I was done. And I know you're not gonna bother me on the podcast. Um, and it wasn't long after that that we decided to be official.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up selling everything I owned and moving to North Carolina. And that was in 2013. And here's the thing. Uh, I don't even know if he knows this, but there was a part of me that was running from my life. My
Hmm.
dad and I had a very codependent relationship. And while he was my whole entire world, I was enabling him and I didn't want to be around my brother anymore. And I didn't want, there was like things in my life that I didn't know who I was. I was trying to recreate myself. Here was this cute guy who lived in the country in the middle of freaking nowhere, right? He looked really good in a
Still do.
cowboy hat and like, it's just and I romanticized what our life would be. I really did. And that wasn't fair to you because that's what I did. I saw your potential and I romanticized the shit out of that and you never ever could reach what I saw. Like and not in a mean way. It's
No,
just like,
no, you're fine.
that's how it
I get
was.
it.
So, but nevertheless, like I moved and um, it would literally take, it was 2 months before my past came banging on the door because 2 months after I moved, my grandmother, who was my only real mother figure, I got the call that she basically had 2 weeks to live. And
She had hidden everything from you.
yeah, I mean, she had known when I owned my brick and mortar insurance business, she used to freaking show up there with boxes of shit. I'm like, Grandma, why do you keep bringing me stuff? You're not dying. Well, she knew she was dying and she wasn't
Right.
telling anybody. So she didn't, if she would have told me that she was sick, I never would have left. You and I never
Right.
would have ever been a thing. And
Understood.
so I think that the reason why she didn't tell me was because she saw an opportunity for me to break free of the codependency of my dad and to like just be happy because she had watched me like give all of myself to these marriages and to not it to just them to just destroy me. And she just loved me so much. But she 2 weeks, 2 months after I moved, that happened and I had to pick up and go back home for a little while. And, I was the executor of her thing. And that devastated me. But I was still in a phase of I didn't know how to quite process my emotions. So I
Mhm.
repressed some. And when I would try to come to you, you didn't know what the fuck to do with me,
No,
with the grief. And
and yeah.
go ahead. How was
No,
that
you're
for
fine.
you?
It was hard because I don't deal with death well.
You don't deal
We
with
know this.
emotions well.
I don't. Yeah, this too. I don't. It was hard for me because I wanted to be there for you and I wanted to support you in every possible freaking way I could. At the same time,
I don't think you knew how.
no, like my hardest emotion for death wasn't the grandmother on my side, wasn't the grandfather on my side, wasn't even the grandfather on my father's side. It was the grandmother on my father's side.
I know, I remember that story.
And I don't know why or how that person became who she was in my life. She was an amazing woman, but I just joined the Navy. I just got to my post in Long Beach. I was in Long Beach and I got a phone call. I wasn't even there a week. I got the phone. I didn't know. Forgive me because this is hard for me to bring up. Um, I didn't know she was dying. I'd just seen her 4 weeks before, I think, before I got stationed where I was and had gotten through all my stuff at school for whatever. For her. for me to I like and it wasn't even a phone call of, hey, you need to call home. It's just me just calling home and going, hey, mom, how you doing? I'm in Long Beach. I just got here. We're getting all set up, and she's like, I need to tell you something, and that broke me. That broke me hard. Like I sat in a phone. This is how old I am. I sat in a fucking phone
I was
booth.
gonna say, weren't you in a phone booth?
I was in a phone booth, and it's hard now not to, but tears coming streaming down my face because all I wanted to do was be there
Yeah.
for whatever ceremony I made it, but it was hard. I mean, forgive me, it was hard. And I think
This is my
once,
show. You can cry all you want.
well, I'm dealing with another one just recent who wasn't even family,
I know.
was a neighbor. Like.
But honestly, that's what should have, like looking, like thinking about it now, hindsight, it's always 2020. The fact that we both were blindsided by our favorite grandmother's passing should have bonded us. Like you should have understood what I was going through. And I
Maybe.
and I think I was so in shock about it and felt the one thing with both the deaths, my grandmother and my father, I felt immense guilt because for me it felt like when I moved, and I have confirmed this on an energetic level, but when I moved, I ended my soul contracts with my grandmother and my father, so I feel responsible for their death in choosing to move. I feel like if I would have stayed, they'd still be would have stayed alive longer. But in that moment, I just knew that here I am. I'm in a new state, in a brand new relationship. Me and Austin don't have really anybody. And here I was alone in the grief of what basically was my mother, and I felt very, very alone. And what I didn't know, and I want to say this because I didn't know how to process emotions the way that I do now back then. I really didn't. And I did not know how to communicate what I needed from you. I did not know how to do that.
Right.
And what I really needed was just somebody to hold me and listen to me. Like I didn't need you to fix me. And a lot of men want to fix the problem.
Yeah, that's my
That's
first go-to is I
it's
need to fix
ingrained in
this.
you. Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
It's a man thing.
guys try to fix everything,
Yeah.
and you can't. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, you cannot. I won't be the first, probably. There's
Well,
many a
there's
man that's
things
been
that,
through all
you can
this.
fix, but it's like it's a matter, there's going to be things that you are able to fix, but there's certain times when you can't fix death. You can't fix the
As much as you want
pain
to,
that your spouse is in. You can't.
right?
um, you can only be available. But the problem is a lot of times men aren't available. When I say available, I mean available to hold another person's emotions when they're in grief or pain, is because it pushes on their own grief and pain that they don't want to feel. And so you were very shut down. And I remember weird things. I don't remember everything, but I remember weird things. Like I remember sitting on the couch next to you and trying to talk to you about it, and you just weren't receptive. You weren't open to it, and you were kind of in your own little world. And I just quit trying. And I was like, okay, he's not supporting me. He's not talking to me. He's not listening to me. Like I didn't feel heard. And so
Didn't know
I,
how.
yeah, and I just did what I've always done back then, which was shove it down, and that's what I did. And that would become a process of my slow death, basically, because what I want to go to next is, and I'm wondering if you remember this. So 6 months after my grandma died, I was woken up in the middle of the night and it was like someone had tied a string underneath my boobs and pulled me straight up like a fucking board. And my
Mm.
grandmother is in
S-
apparition form at the end of the
In the
bed
bed. Yep, I
in a
remember.
white dress. She looked like she was in her 30s. They tend to show up when they look their best. And my grandmother in her 30s, she looked like Lucille Ball. She was just fucking gorgeous. And her lips weren't moving, but I knew everything that she was saying. And she was telling me that my dad was sick. And um, I remember the next morning telling you, what did you, what went through your head?
Oh, really?
I want to know the
The
truth. Like, what
truth?
did you think about me?
Well,
Did
this
you?
bitch crazy. I mean, but I say that, but at the same time, the dimes.
Oh, yeah, the dimes. I haven't even talked about that.
I mean, the dimes.
I would
You
clean the
you you
whole
talk all
house.
this stuff.
I would clear off the counters. There would be nothing on the counters. And I'd go into another room and come back. There'd be a brand new fucking shiny dime just sitting on the counter.
No reason.
No
Or
reason.
even on the floor.
Yeah.
Like you'd clean the floors. You'd vacuum, whatever. There's a dime
She was
sitting there.
obsessed with dimes.
I know. And that was, excuse me, that was like,
Undeniable that
okay.
something was going, like something was real.
I guess. At the same time, it's really going on here. Like,
Did you believe me when I told you the story the next morning about what happened that night? Because I didn't
oh
wake you
yeah. I
up.
mean,
I told
in
you the
your
next day.
for to hear from you, yes. Um, in my mind, I'm like, could it be? Sure. I mean, I don't know anything. I mean, I am not you. I'm not open. We know this. I have some form.
You've had experiences with me though, because of me
I,
being in my energy.
I mean, you've done things for me most people wouldn't even believe.
Do
Like,
you remember when you had food poisoning and I
yeah,
healed that shit in like 45 minutes?
not even. Like, I
It was
came home from
insane.
eating that food. I'm in a cold sweat. I let you do your thing, and I'm like, this is some hocus pocus
I had
fucking
crystals all
bullshit.
over him. Like he was like, what? He was in so much pain. He let me do this.
I was like, you don't understand. And, and let me tell you this, folks. If anything, never eat the shrimp basket from there. Don't ask me why. I was
I didn't even
45
know
minutes
Dairy
from
Queen had
home,
shrimp baskets.
right? You either. But I'm like, you know me, shrimp.
And it usually, so when you do energy work, it usually gets really intense for a minute. It's like it's drawing it out, and
Right.
then then it goes and it's gone.
It was weird. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm laying in bed, cold sweats, miserable pain. Within, I'd say less than 45 minutes, it was gone. I was fine. I felt good, good to go. There's no explaining any of that. You did what you did. I'm grateful. I mean, even last week, I not ask you, hey, I'm under the weather. If you got anything, send it because I do believe now.
I never did sit and do anything. I don't even remember you sending me that message.
I thought we had
Shit.
talked on the phone while we're on the phone
I don't,
because I don't know. I got
I can't keep, like,
sick.
the time moves, like, we're moving through time so fast now. I feel like every week is a whole lifetime at this
Oh no,
point.
yeah, no, I'm with you every time.
Yeah.
So,
But so the grandma thing, like the dimes, and then that. So when that happened with my grandmother, I've always been intuitive. I've always been able to read energy. I never classified it as intuitive or energy read. It was a skill that obviously did me good to keep me safe in the abuse and trauma, the severe abuse and trauma that I went through as a child. It allowed me to read my abuser to know like how to navigate her so that I stayed alive. But I had, I started seeing things at like 3. I had premonitions very young, and it scared me, and I shut it down. But
Right.
I was always drawn to aliens. I was obsessed with Sylvia Brown. I was obsessed with all of those things, but I never really understood why, or like I never went into it for that way. I always knew when people were pregnant before they told a single soul, sometimes even before they told their husband. So it was it was just one of those things. But after my grandmother died, that's when things really started to shift, and I started to
Right.
see more apparitions, started to hear things, feel things. And I don't even remember telling you a lot of what I was seeing or hearing in that time period, because I was so much in grief, but also I was in fear because my dad was my safety. My dad was my everything. Like
Right.
my mom left when I was 3. It was just me and my dad for a very
Right.
long time. And so when she told me that, I never told my dad. I was afraid to tell my dad because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I think part of me knew that it was true.
Mhm.
And during that time, my dad used to Skype me once a week minimum. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden, he stopped doing that. And he had all these excuses about this computer was broke. And I'm like, you're a fucking engineer, bro. Like for NASA. There's no way. I know you know how to
Right.
fix your computer. And then he started going in and out of the hospital because remember in 2014, we had that hurricane over 4th of July, and we were at your
Yeah.
parents' house, and I lost my shit because I couldn't get a hold of my dad, and my brother called, and my dad was in the hospital, and
Right.
we had been drinking too, so that kind of made the emotions just a
No,
little bit more intense
that doesn't
your
happen.
poor father that week, that night. But anyway, it was from after my grandmother died to when my dad got sick and I found out my dad was sick. It was an emotional roller coaster for me because he was in and out of the hospital. I
Right.
mean, I remember when you and I had a bet over the Cowboys versus the Chargers, and we went to Yanni's, and Chargers won, and I had, all right, you had to wear my Chargers jersey. Yes, we're gonna
Ah,
bring this up, but
God,
it was
really?
such a great night, right? We're coming home on a
We
high,
had a
and then
good time.
I get that phone call again about my dad. It was just like a roller coaster constantly. And he didn't want me to see him because he was sick, and
He was embarrassed.
no, he was lying to me, but he did not
Mm.
want, he wouldn't tell me anything. And so it was a difficult emotional ride that I felt like I was on alone, because I remember I would get so emotional. And I remember the night of the hurricane, like your dad was the one who sat with me. Like Bill sat with me that night on the steps and talked to me, like for at least an hour and a half,
Yep.
and it was like I felt heard by him that night. And your
But
dad is the farthest one to believe in any of this stuff either. But
oh yeah, oh
but
no,
when it
yeah.
came to the grief portion and what I was going through, he sat with me that night, and I'll never forget that. But other than that, like I was pretty alone in that. And I just want the men to know that, like, a lot of times when there's a death or an illness, especially with a parent, the thing that your spouse needs the most is to just literally be seen, held, and heard. There's nothing you can do to fix them. You can only sit in the dark with them. And if
Yep.
you can do that, you will save your fucking marriage. Because if you can get your spouse through the death of a parent, you can get through anything.
Absolutely.
And that
And I
was the
mean,
death of
yeah.
us. Honestly, it really was the death
Well, I
of
mean,
us.
yeah, when your dad finally did pass away, I didn't know how to handle it once again.
No. I mean, so check this out. So I know a lot of you guys read the book, but for those who didn't, 2015 was one of the best years and one of the
The
worst years,
worst. Yep.
because that year I had gotten him and I got married with only a couple people knowing. Like we had planned a
We did
ceremony.
April, yes.
Yeah, April we got married. And again, nobody in my family knew that we got married, including my dad. I never told my dad that we'd already gotten married. Um, so
We did it, but here's why.
we
We
did it
were
to buy a
trying to
house.
we were trying to buy a home.
Yeah, that's why we got married, was because we wanted he was VA, and I had the credit and the income, and
Hmm.
he had the VA loan. We didn't want to put down payment. We didn't have a down payment to put down.
No, no.
But we were planning on buying a home, and we ended up getting a custom manufactured home put together and put on the property that he already had from his grandfather. But that
Right.
year was a good year. So we had gotten married. I had just gotten a huge promotion at work with a big fat raise. Like I finally felt like things were starting to like have forward momentum. We had sent out like wedding invitations and we had planned a vacation. We were going back. He was going to meet my dad for the first time because he
Right.
never got to meet him. And my daughter was graduating high school. And so we went back and we brought, you brought Ashton. Austin obviously was with me. And it was supposed to be this great thing. And I had this really bad feeling going out there, like internally. I don't even know if I expressed it to you, but I just had this knowing that I was walking into something. And I remember we flew in late and we were staying with Kim and Billy, who was my dad's best friends that lived next
Next door
door.
neighbors.
Yeah, they had more room. My dad did not. So we stayed with them. And the next morning, I remember getting up and like running to my dad, and he was still in bed. And I walked in, and oh, I'm going to get emotional. He had
And so,
aged 30 years. He was in his 50s. He was 56. He looked like he was 88, like 85. He looked like he was in his 80s. I don't have a fucking poker face. I do
no.
not have a poker face. It took everything to not be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it just, I knew in that moment. And I remember telling you when we left, it's not going to be long before I come back. But I didn't know it was going to be literally 48 hours later.
Yep.
And when
That's
I
when they
got there,
found him outside on the street, right?
yeah, 2 days after we got home, Billy found him in the street in his underwear, convulsing. He was delirious because the bile had gone to his brain. And they took him in, and the doctor on the phone told me, you need to come out here. Like there, you need to be here in person. I was his medical proxy. I was the
Right.
executor of his will. I was in charge of everything because my siblings did not have any part of their life together. And I remember getting there and walking in the hospital, and my dad was in rare angry form. He hated being in the hospital. He was pissed.
No, he
And
was not a fan.
no, and the doctor came in and pulled me out of the room and said, he's got 4 months to live. And the moment he said that, everything else after was the Charlie Brown want, want, want. I was in a tunnel. I didn't fucking hear anything because I was like, my dad is 56, bro. What are you telling me? Like this, I'm too young to have this be happening. This is surreal. And they put it on me to tell him, and I didn't. I wouldn't tell him because I was like, no, I can fix him. No,
Right.
this isn't. I went into full blown denial that this was happening.
And mom mode.
Yeah, I did. I was like, because I was
I know.
always like a mom to my dad, which is weird to say, but I took
You're
care
like a
of my
mom to
dad.
all of us,
Yeah, I
even
really was the
me.
resident mom.
I know.
But I fixed all the men in my life. That's just what happened. I took care of all the men in my life. My dad used to call me a secretary because I paid his bills with his money, but I took care of everything for him.
Right.
And which is a pattern that I then married into over and over again, right? So
You're welcome.
I convinced him. I sold him this bill of goods that he could come retire, come live with us, fish the Atlantic. He loved it. He was a
Right.
deep sea fisherman.
Love to deep sea
Spend
fish.
time with his grandkids, all of this. I literally sold him a bill of goods. And in my brother fought me tooth and nail, but I won. And in 3 weeks, I had to sell my childhood home, retire my dad, sell everything for pennies on the dollar. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
watching a man, like I had to watch my dad watch me sell everything he had worked his whole entire life for pennies. It was the most
Literally.
heartbreaking
Yeah.
thing ever.
Yeah.
And then so we moved him. We weren't even we didn't even have a home. We were temporary. We were in your parents' friend's house on another island.
Parker's
And
Island.
yep, on Harker's Island, which thankfully had a waterfront view, which really made my dad happy. But we were in a temporary location because we were in the middle of a freaking construction, a home loan. And then I get
Wait,
out
oh no,
there.
we're waiting for a house to be from move our house, old
Yeah, we were in the
house
middle of it
moved.
still. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't closed. It wasn't
No.
done. And there's a whole story with that, but we're not going to get into it because it just gets me mad. But anyway, so we're all in temporary, right? I get back, I get my dad settled. I go back to work to back to work to a box on
Oh,
my desk that I was
this one.
fired.
Yeah, don't. Mm.
So here we are. Okay. I made more money. I had more,
You had
I
an
don't,
income.
I
You
had more
had an
income and
income.
I think I had better credit too at the time. So I think I had to
Probably.
be on the loan. And now I mean, I begged the owner. I remember begging Casey, fire me when the loan is closed. Fucking don't do it now. You're going to kill me. And he wouldn't do it. So my dad paid off some of your debt to restructure the loan so that you could be on it.
He put a deposit down.
Yeah. And that allowed you to, me to stay on the loan, but you to be the primary borrower and allow the loan to continue so we could have the house. And it all worked out. But
Right. Because the
we,
main, mind you, I look, I mean, when I moved here, it was a single wide 2 bedroom home. That's what I moved into. That was here.
and that didn't work for me.
No, and of course, and not with the three of us or four of us, the two
Yeah.
kids and um, you and me. But when I originally moved here, my parents gave me this opportunity to move here multiple times, and I denied it. And then I finally said okay because my monthly, if you want to call it rent, would be insurance and taxes. So basically, I paid like $80 a month to live here in this single wide, just me and my girlfriend at the
It made
time
sense.
before,
Yeah. For the time when you
right.
moved, it made
And this was
sense.
before, way before Johanna. This was 2005.
Yeah.
We moved here and the opportunity was, I mean, I was living in San Diego, 5 bedroom house, 2 story, paying $2,500 a month with some roommates and stuff. Got tired of that crap. And I'm like, fine. And I did it. And then I moved here and then I started with one job that worked for about a year. And then I went to another job, worked for about a year. I'm like, this isn't long term.
Yeah.
My mom got me into a job with the county.
You got this, we got
And
reestablished.
that's the only thing that keeps me going is because it's not the pay. You know, I still don't make jack. I mean, I'm still making under $20 an hour. But the benefits and the 401k, the retirement is worth it.
Yeah.
I
You're
have
going for the long game.
I have 12 years left.
Yeah.
At this point, we're talking 12. I think
That,
June
that
will be
seems like a
11.
long time still.
It does, but does it? You just said
I
yourself.
know. It'll be
The
here. It'll be,
time is flying by.
it is, it is flying.
So, I mean, by the time I retire, I'll have my disability, which is I'm 90%, which I'm trying to get that extra 10, which will make all the difference in the world. Um, it in 11 years, 65, 12 years, 65, whatever it is, I'll be 65 plus the my 401k. I can wait the 2 years until 67 if Social Security is still there.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
I know, but I can be hopeful.
Yeah.
But 67, full retirement plus, I mean, 30-year retirement plus my 401k plus my disability plus in 2 years Social Security, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I can afford everything. But at that point in time, it was like you were the breadwinner.
But see, that's again like that was who I was. Like
Oh, I know.
I came in and like and I do this in businesses too. This is why companies loved me and I always like soared to the top really quickly because I could walk into a situation. It's I have a Paul won't know what this means, but I have a Virgo midheaven. So I can see structures and organizations. So I can walk into a company and be like, you need to do this different. And it changes how the company flows and I'm able to make them more successful and make things run more efficiently. Well, I can do that in relationships too. So I would was constantly picking men that I was like, "Oh, I can fix this. I can fix you. We can, and women do not do that shit." But I was
Don't
like, I
know.
saw his potential and he still has a lot of potential, but that person has to be willing to do the internal work to step into that potential. And he'll tell you he don't want to do it. You've
But I've
told
come a
me.
long way.
Yeah, no, you have grown a lot since our divorce, but in,
I had to.
we talked before then, and you're like, I'm not changing. I don't want to be that. I don't
That was
want
hard for me.
to
I
do that.
mean,
And so, but I have to say, like, he showed me who he was, and he told me who he was from day one. I didn't believe him. I was like, no, I can fix him. I can make him better. And that was on me, right? I have to take responsibility for that. But when I got out there, I saw that. I was like, we can have a better house. I can make us have a better life. I can upgrade us. And I did. I did
nope,
do that. I
nope,
100% did that. But it came at my expense because
did,
nobody was taking care of me.
nope.
And I hate to tell this story, but I have to tell this
Go
part
ahead.
of it is we were on Harker's Island. And I remember I stood in the kitchen and I started to break because I had for 3 weeks I was fucking living on 3 hours of sleep. I was drinking wine at night and coffee all day to try to sell and move and get everything back and trying to take care of Austin and you and dad and the fucking Wells Fargo mess of a home loan
Ugh,
we were in and all the things. I was juggling all the balls and Paul really wasn't
no,
doing much of anything and I was breaking and he looked at me and he said, "You can't break. You're the rock of this family." And in that moment I swallowed it and I'll tell you I shut down. I
you did.
shut down. I
You're not
started
wrong.
watching Friends in our room. I started drinking a whole lot more. I was trying to plan a fucking wedding, taking care of a man who was dying. And then when we did get married, right? Again, I'm still running on fumes, doing all of this. We get through the wedding. Was it 3 days later or 6 days later? I had a fucking stroke
Yep.
and we had to go to the hospital. I remember this day too because here I am. My dad had a
Ugh.
good day that
I
day.
think it was three.
Was it
Wasn't even,
three?
I
Yeah.
don't even think it was six. I think it was three. I
I
was
think it was three
driving.
days too, because it was
We were
right
coming back
after.
from Beaufort.
Yeah. So that my dad had a good day that day, and on a good day, he'd like to get out. So our adventure that day was going to the grocery store. He wanted to
Yep.
pick his favorite snacks out himself and just get out of the house. I didn't blame him. I was like, okay, let's go. So on the way there, I started noticing that on the left side, my lip was tingling. I thought, well, that's weird. And then it started to go down into my face. And I was like, okay. And as we're in the grocery store, I notice it's now moving down my neck. And by the time we're headed back, my arm is going numb and I'm feeling tingles like a sleep feeling down the side. And in my head, I'm thinking, do I go to a fire station? Like something's really wrong. And I was like, well, I can't do that. This is how this is how fucking strong woman syndrome I am, right? Like I can't do that. I have groceries in the car because I bought our groceries. My
Yep.
dad can't drive. Who's going to come pick up my dad? So I'm like, I just got to keep going. So I'm just ignoring the fact that my fucking half my body's falling asleep. And I get home, get my dad settled. I call the nurse advice line while I'm putting the groceries away, telling the nurse what's going on. She says, "Ma'am, hang up the
That's right.
phone.
Okay.
You're having a stroke. The ambulance is on her way." I said, "What?" I'm like 35. And so I hang up the phone, still in shock. I said, "Dad, the ambulance is coming. Apparently, I'm having a stroke." I don't know what he thought in that moment because he's the one that's supposed to take care of me and he can't do fucking anything. And so I had to call you from the ambulance to get Austin because I think Austin had soccer or something that day or something. And you had to call Bobby, who was a nurse friend, to come take care of my dad. And
Mhm.
they ended up, and I remember in the hospital, they sat there and told us, we got to give her this clot buster drug. And
Mm.
there's like a good chance it could kill her. So we had to decide 3 days after our official wedding if we're going to give me a drug that could kill me, but it will also bring back the feeling. Well, I can tell you, my face is still not correct because when I smile, sometimes I notice that like it's different, it's off.
Right.
Anyways, they gave me the drug. I ended up getting ambulance to Greenville, to Vidant, a major hospital, because on the little
Our
island
hospital
area
doesn't.
where
Yeah.
we had my neuro doctor was on a fucking robot screen. Like she
Right.
wasn't even there in person. They deemed they misdiagnosed me with a stroke. And I still to this day feel like it was still a stroke because of just the 35 doctors. They scanned everything they did, had
You were
trodes
there
on,
for 3.5
electrodes on
days,
my
right?
head. Yeah, they scanned. every orifice, every test. I had electrodes on my head. I mean, they did everything and they could not figure out
What
what
was wrong?
happened. And
Right.
so they diagnosed me at that time. They changed the diagnosis to seizures, which I'm lucky I didn't get my license removed because I wasn't supposed to drive. And they put me on a very deadly cocktail of antidepressants, anxiety medication, and seizure medication, which is a good reason why I will never take another antidepressant or anxiety
Right.
pill. So anyway, we're function. I'm back home. You know, we ended up moving into our place. We get my dad settled in, and from September to when he died, he just progressively got worse. And it was really hard for me because I was the one taking the brunt of everything.
Right.
And like you had a great, you know, you and dad would cut up and have a good time.
Right.
Austin started to withdraw. He didn't want to talk to Papa anymore. And I was just became the bitch nurse. Like I was no longer his favorite daughter. And I am his favorite child. I will admit that. He's admitted it to my brother and my, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I was grieving my father while he was still alive. And again, I had no support. I had nothing. I was carrying everything while trying to that's when I first started with the MLM and I was trying to create a business
Right.
while taking care of my father and I'm trying to take care of the kids and you and the house and all the things and it was slowly killing me. But after my dad died, um, I felt a bit of relief, but also it broke me in a way I can't articulate because
You don't need to. I mean,
it wasn't very
the
long
loss of a
after that
parent
that,
shouldn't be something you can articulate. It's for you.
but see, he was my safety because when you're abandoned as a child and you have one parent, when you're 3 years old and that happens, you transfer all of your safety and dependence into that person.
Hmm.
And I never realized that until he died.
Right.
And then I felt zero sense of safety. And I
Right.
don't, that is the scariest thing to feel. And I still feel that way most of the time. And, but after my dad died, all the trauma that I had repressed broke. So I started having flashbacks of the things that I went through as a child that I had repressed. I started feeling all the shit I'd repressed through the time I was watching him die, my grandmother, like it was all coming up. And at the same time, every one of my senses started to open. So I was hearing spirit, feeling spirit. I was having crazy dreams. We would go to restaurants and I would just put my arms on the table and my body would shake the whole table because of the amount of energy that was coming because my light was on and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this.
Right.
You know, it was so crazy. And I don't even remember having an initial conversation with you at all about like I'm hearing things or seeing things, but I don't even remember. There's so much that's blacked out for me. But what were you thinking when all of this broke free and I was starting to have this? Because I remember your
Well,
grandmothers would come to me and I would ask you questions and you were just so weird about it.
because it was the grandmother that came to you was
It was the one with you cooked with or something.
it was the one that I was not a fan of
Yeah. But
because
they
of things that happened to my mother.
But those
It
are the ones
she
that come the most because they
uh,
want to reconcile.
well, they want to reconcile and they want forgiveness, but in the same breath, that's my mom. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad is my dad. If you don't know, my father is my stepfather, but he, in all means, is my father. He adopted me when I was 8 years old. He has been there ever since, and he has supported me, stood by me, punished me, taught me, learned me how to live.
Yeah.
He has made me a better person than I
Bill's an awesome
ever
guy.
have been. He is an amazing man.
Yeah. I will
Um,
always have a lot of respect for Bill.
I understand that. My mom's. My mom's just my mom.
We're not going to talk about Teresa.
She's passionate about what she wants in
She has
her
a
own
her
ways.
and I have a lot in common,
I
and
know.
where when you have two strong females who and I'm gonna be completely truthful. Teresa, his mother, took care of a lot of things for Paul. And then when
Yep.
I came in, I became the new Teresa, basically.
Basically,
I took care of everything. And so we were competing to be his mother. And it's super unattractive. It really is.
it
But
is. You're not wrong.
that's
I
what
mean, I'm not going
happened.
to deny that.
It got placed, that energy shifted to me. And so when we looked at each other, we were just mirrors for each other. And sometimes we got along fabulous, and other times we didn't. And after my awakening, it changed everything with her and I. And that was another thing. Like, um, you know, choose your wife, choose your wife, because she did some horrific things to me, and you didn't stand up for me. And so choose your wife. And it's hard because you love your mother, and I would never want to
I'll
come
always
with.
love my mother. I
Yeah.
don't agree with
She
everything
means
she says
well
or does. I know.
sometimes. She doesn't consider or think sometimes. But she's a
And
good person. It's,
she thinks in her own mind that
yeah.
everything is should be the way she wants.
Yeah. There
You
was
know.
after the hurricane, we've had a mini hurricane. After one particular hurricane Florence, that destroyed their house.
Mm,
So I
God, that
didn't want
was
them to know that I was coming over to clear the front pathway of trees. So I brought my truck over and I'm clearing the pathway. And I didn't want her to know it was me. I didn't. And they came home early. And I remember her walking up to me and she said that this is what came out of her mouth. Not thank you, not that's so generous. I appreciate it. It was, I think you're crazy and I don't believe half the shit that you're saying, but I guess you're good for something. And I remember feeling this drop in my stomach of like, oh my God, I cannot believe you just said that to me. And you didn't say anything to her. And that made me lose a little respect for you in that moment.
and I don't blame you. At the same time, uh,
You were like,
52
that's my
years,
mom.
that's my mom. I can't. It's hard.
So choose your wife. Like you have to, and you, like, again, I need to say this right now so people don't think I'm bashing on you. Paul was my greatest teacher. And I've never even told him this. He was my greatest teacher because he was my hardest relationship because I loved him so much and I really wanted our marriage to work. I really wanted to build this life that I saw for us. And all I got mirrored back to me was the pattern of choices that I had made in my life of who I was, right? Of choosing broken men. And you weren't really broken, but you are emotional, you were emotionally unavailable. I think
Absolutely.
you're a little bit more emotionally available now than you were then. But of thinking I can fix them and choosing men and relationships that I romanticized and just being the masculine and mothering men and doing those things and just taking over. And what I really craved was a very masculine, assertive man who could put me in my place, who could talk back to me, who would protect me, provide for me, do all those things. And that's not him. He doesn't like conflict. And
No,
if we were dancing in a bar, he wasn't going to come in and take a guy off of me. He'd be like, she can handle it. Like and I could drop a 6'5" man if I needed to. I've had to before, but I started to feel this shift after my dad died. I'm like, this isn't it. And while Dave was that kind of guy, it didn't, I'm not sure, like I don't know how I shifted so dramatically in the type of man. I don't know how that happened. You don't really choose who you fall in love with. But I started to shift into like, this isn't it. And I kept trying to fix you and I kept trying to fix you and it wouldn't
no,
work. And I was still trying to fix me too. I was working on myself. But in that, I was like, well, I'm bettering myself. Let me see if I can fix him at the same time so that we can do this. And it didn't work. And I just kept outgrowing you and outgrowing you and outgrowing you. And I would bounce, I would get snapped back and snapped back. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Um, and it was hard, but I remember, so the death of our marriage was really after my dad died and being so alone in my grief. I remember
Well,
just
I mean,
sleeping so
don't
much.
forget
And
about Thanksgiving.
well,
You
yeah,
got to throw that in there.
I wasn't even going to do that. So
I know, but I mean, it still needs to be
this
said.
is the breaking point. This when if and I actually I
And I
think
don't
it's in
blame
one of
you for
my books.
this. And this is one of the hardest things for me to
It's gonna be hard for him to hear again.
admit
Yeah.
and live because
But 3 days, so my dad died 3 days before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was my dad's favorite holiday. He loved my cooking. I am a really good cook. And
amazing, amazing
normally
cook
Teresa held Thanksgiving, right? And we would go
every
to there
year.
and I would help her, and her and I would drink wine in the mornings and cut up and have a good time. And I said, hey, like I'll host Thanksgiving this year
Why?
because my dad, I couldn't move. My dad
Well,
needed to
that and
stay.
why this was the first. It was our house.
Yeah, it was our
We had
house. It was our first
just
Thanksgiving, but my
yeah,
dad, I wasn't going to make my dad go over there.
right, right.
I
But
wanted
I
him
mean,
to
it
be
was the first
comfortable.
our
Yeah.
home
But
Thanksgiving,
for me it was because of my dad. That was the main
right?
thing. So I
But
said,
you
"Oh,
volunteered
yes, I volunteered.
originally.
We already had all the food. Like I bought everything. It was done."
Yep.
And then
Except for the oven was too like
yeah, that's a
jerky.
whole nother thing. But so uh my dad died 3 days before Thanksgiving. And I
Hmm.
remember you were standing in front of the fridge and you looked at me and said, "Are you still gonna do Thanksgiving?" And I said, "I don't want to. I want to crawl in a hole and die." And you said, you can't do that to my mother."
I did,
And
and I
I,
was wrong.
I,
I'll
sh
admit that.
I talk about abandonment. Holy fuck. That broke the fuck. That was the end of our marriage at that point. I just didn't know what to do with it. And so I remember Thanksgiving, I had two big bottles of White Zinfandel in my walk-in closet. And my best friend at the time, Jen, on FaceTime, I would stir. I had a bar stool in front of the stove. I'd stir. And people will come up to me and just, they'd say condolences, but then they just cut, laugh, joke. Your mom's laughing, drinking, having a great, merry old time. And I'm just sitting there by myself at the oven stirring. And then I'd go in the closet and I just picked up, and this was a big bottle, y'all.
It
I fucking
was.
chuck of that shit
It's
right
it was
out of the
one of the biggest.
bottle.
Those big ones.
Yeah, the cheap big ass bottles. I'm chugging that shit straight out the bottle. And I have a glass probably at the counter too, but I'm drinking it straight out of the bottle. I am numbing everything to function. And I would cry to Jen on FaceTime and then wipe my tears, go back and whatever. And by the end of the night, I probably had a good buzz and things were a little bit easier. Um, but that was really hard for me. And it wouldn't come until God, what, a year ago, a year and a half ago, I was at Tanya's and you called and apologized. And I wasn't expecting it. And I think I cried for 2 days after you did that because I didn't realize how much I needed that.
I didn't realize how much I did it, and I still feel horrible because things could have changed. Could have said, "Mom,
We had
I'll
all the
bring
food.
everything.
Yeah.
I'll bring everything to you. I just need you. I need your help because this doesn't need to happen here." And I was wrong, and I apologize for that.
That was the breaking point. And then a couple years later, as I'm healing and you know, now I'm working with these, trying to manage, learning how to manage my energy and manage fucking all the shit that I'm seeing and feeling and all the stuff that's going on. I think it was 2017. Um, you had some issues with your liver.
Yep. Fatty
And
liver disease. Well,
yeah,
I was diagnosed as a diabetic.
and
I was
and
165 pounds, wasn't overweight. But Coca-Cola was my issue.
so
I would drink Coca-Cola like it was,
and course.
well, leave my cores alone.
He didn't eat healthy at all. Let me,
No,
at all.
no.
There was zero healthy eating going on. But he got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and fatty
Yep.
liver disease. And Those are the two things that my dad had that led to the death of him. And it re-triggered everything. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to have to do this all over again. And I was so angry with you because I was like, you just
that I wouldn't
watch
change,
the fucking
except for the
hell
soda.
I
I
went through, and you're not going to change your diet. You're not going to better yourself. So
you help
I felt
you helped.
abandoned again. But in 2017 is when when that happened, it was the end of 2017. I emotionally detached from you at that point because I
In
was a hot fucking
2018,
mess.
3 days before Mother's Day, 4 days before Mother's Day, you came to me while I was getting ready. Now, mind you, I had taken on the responsibility of all the bills. I was paying for everything at that point. I was
No, you
house.
weren't.
You were paying half the house.
No, I was paying half the house and I bought all the
Yep.
groceries, which was like
Yep.
$1,000 a month,
But I
by the
was but
way.
I was paying for
You were
everything
paying the
else, all
utilities.
the lease.
Yeah.
And so I had to have an extra job. And I took that extra job, which
Yeah.
was driving Uber.
Hmm.
And I still do that to this day, but I don't do it like I used to. But
And
you came to me
I covered a lot of
on
stuff because I had my inheritance and I was making money.
you, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a lot of things that we had, or were able to do a lot of things that we did.
Yeah, because I furnished a lot of the house. I put
Yep.
money down on your car so that you could get a better car for Ubering,
Yep.
whatever. But it was timing because I had emotionally detached
Dash.
and I was really contemplating leaving the marriage at that time, and I just didn't.
Right.
I didn't want to start over again. I was like, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. And then when you did
But I
Uber,
was gone
now you were gone all the time.
all the time.
So
Every night.
now
I
I
mean, we're
was
talking 4 nights a week. I'm
I
out.
went from emotionally abandoned to like he was never there. And
I
so
was never
I
home.
was
Nope.
just a
I
single
didn't
married
want
person.
to deal. I didn't want to deal with it.
I know.
That was my, that was my,
You ran away from it
yeah, that was
and
my
you ran
exit
away from
strategy
me.
was to work to, in my mind, for me, hey, I'm paying the bills. I'm doing something for this family.
What did you
Looking back on
feel
it,
back that though? What did you feel back then? Did you realize, were you
no,
aware
no,
that
no, no,
what you
no,
were
no, no,
doing?
no, no. Come. I've come a long way from that. No, I didn't. No clue. No clue what I mean, I
Did
knew I
you
just didn't
feel
want to
like our
be here. I
marriage
didn't
was
want
in
to
a
deal
good
with,
place?
huh?
Did you feel like our marriage was in a good place?
Oh, hell no. I knew it wasn't. And I was in my mind, I wanted out, but I didn't because, this is my first. I've never done
Yeah,
marriage.
I was his first marriage and it's probably his only marriage.
No, no, definitely only because I'm not signing my life away for, and I'm grateful what you did because you gave up everything for me.
I walked
She walked
away.
away. And I will, I will forever be grateful. I don't know if I've ever told her how grateful I am.
Yeah, when I left, I took my desk, clothes, and very little things, and I,
You asked.
I walked away from everything.
You asked for some compensation, of
Yeah,
course.
I asked for
And of
money.
course I couldn't afford
You
what
couldn't
you
do that.
asked.
And it was warranted. Like, listen, the decks alone around the fucking house were like 25 grand. So,
But
it's
you asked.
and
And
he
I said I
couldn't do
can't do
it.
that. I couldn't. But you
I settled.
renegotiated.
Yeah, and I still get mad about that because I had some stipulations that went around with that. Like we're going to do these things for our kids and us.
Yep. Nope.
That
I
motherfucker
was
broke
horrible.
every damn rule like within
I
two
wouldn't say
months, three
everyone, but
months,
yeah, most of them, yes.
pretty
No,
much.
I had I
Anyway,
still
I
to this
was
day
too
don't remember
sick.
that conversation.
I had such bad adrenal fatigue, and you
Yeah.
know this. And let's talk about this too because you had said this to me at one point. You had said I didn't know what to do. You were sick all the time, and I didn't know what was happening to you. And for those who listen to this podcast, they know what ascension means. It's your body going from carbon to crystalline. And when you go through an awakening, you go through these massive purges. So you have fevers, you have headaches, you have body pains, you want to sleep, you get sick. And I was going through, I mean, the amount of trauma and the amount of stuff that I had repressed for at that point, almost 40 years, 38 years was intense. So I had
Yep.
a few years of massive purging. And so it was like I was always sick. But on top of that, I was always so fucking stressed out because I was and doing everything on my own. And how did I don't even remember exactly what you said, but what did you think during those times when you're like, there was no real reason for me to be sick or to have any of these issues?
No clue. And I had
What
zero
what would you have
idea.
wanted from me to help you understand? Because this was the
I
whole
don't
point of
know.
the
And
podcast.
see, and these are the questions that I did not want
Yeah.
because I have no true answer. I am horrible with articulating words together,
Yeah.
forming a sentence. I'm not
Which
good
you
at it.
always, this was an issue between us too, because I'm really good with words. I'm a writer, you
It's
know.
phenomenal. I'm like, hey, how would you word this? Because I don't know
But
what to
in
say.
arguments or conversations, I think he always felt a little defeated.
Oh, beyond.
Yeah.
I
But you don't
I
remember
never
what you were
had an
feeling
argument because I
inside?
didn't like arguments.
No, yeah, we never really fought.
No, it wasn't a fight, but
No, I think we had
I'd be
maybe
like,
two
all right,
major
I'm going to
blowouts
work.
our whole
I mean,
time.
the night you came in, the night you walked into the bathroom while I'm getting ready to go to work, it was a Thursday night. It was 4 days before Mother's Day. You walk in and go, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay. I'm like, doing hair, teeth, just trying to get ready to go to work, go drive.
No, you weren't going to drive.
Yep.
You were going to see Kelly and Mike at the beach.
Nope. Not that night. I was going to drive.
I don't remember that. I'm pretty sure you were
I,
going to
I,
Kelly and Mike.
no.
When I asked for a divorce,
Yep.
I remember that day because I literally walked in the
It was the
bathroom and
Thursday
said,
before Mother's Day.
I said I want a divorce, and you
I
said
know.
he said okay,
I looked at you and said, okay,
and I
because
said
I already had
okay,
feeling.
and you said I was gonna ride it till the wheels fell off, and
I was
I
because I
that it made
loved
me
you.
so sick when he
I know.
said that because I felt
I
so
understand it
used.
did, but at the same time, I still loved you.
Yeah.
No matter what. And in my mind,
Well, I had moved out of our bedroom a month before.
it was till death do us part.
Yeah. And I
Never
always said that
stop.
I was going to bury you in the backyard and put a course out there, every once in a while with some Wi-Fi so that you could play your stupid phone games.
That's fine.
But
I'd appreciate it.
the other thing that I want to touch on is, do you remember when there's a
I
couple of
say no
things.
now and just be safe.
No. Do you remember when we were sitting in bed watching TV one night and the burns started to develop on my neck and you watched the burns develop? So
Yeah.
I was in another life, I was burned at the stakes, that's a
It-
thing.
that that was probably one of the freakiest things that's ever
Yeah,
happened.
he watched them develop. They were on both sides of my neck. Try explaining that one to people.
Can't.
Um,
Like I mean
I still
no.
have photos of him. I still have photos of the marks. Um, and it's a when the witches were burned at the stakes, it was a persecution. And so whatever, I don't even remember what I was going through at that time, what I was healing, but a persecution wound was coming up. And when I came out of the spiritual closet, you got to mind you, the little island areas where we lived, these people have, and it's not that they're bad people, but they're very cliquey. Like their family are their friends. They don't take to outsiders well.
Yeah, but I mean
It's
like
very
it's like
Bible
10
belty.
families
Yes. So
throughout the area.
yeah. And
Like
they're
I mean
all,
like
they've
it's
been there for
very close knit.
generations,
Like
There's like,
we are complete outsiders,
yes, they don't, I
especially
never,
her. Ask her about
I
going
might
to the
as well
grocery
have been a
store or
wild
the
animal on the loose. I
yeah.
used to want to wear a shirt that says, you know, yes, I don't belong here. I'm not a wild, like, stop staring at me. I'm not a wild animal. But again, I came in, I had bleached blonde hair, I had my nails done. I was a total California Southern girl, and I stood out like a fucking sore thumb. And that was fine, but nobody took to me. And I'm an extrovert. Like, I need people, I need community. And it's not that I didn't try, because I really did try. but anyway, I think when I came out of the spiritual closet out there, um, there was for me, I felt a lot of alienation. I felt a lot of judgment,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
No, it's
there
a
was a lot of persecution. And so we were sitting in bed, and the both sides of my neck, they just started developing. And we went through the whole gamut of any other way it could have been. Did I eat anything new? Is there any reactions? Like we sat there and went through all of it. And it was there for like 3 weeks. I remember we went to your mom's and your mom's like, what happened? I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, 'cause I'm not even going to go down that fucking can of worms. Like, we're not going there. And then it just went away one day. It was just gone.
yeah,
Um, but I
I
always
do
wondered what
remember
you
that.
thought about that night, because
This is
that
the
is a
freakiest thing
wild
I've ever
thing.
seen. It's what why does this happen? How does
Yeah.
this happen? It shouldn't have happened. You
But I
know?
was affected by full moons. I was affected by the solar flares. I was affected by all of those things. Did you ever have like did what like I want to know your thought process or your emotional process of like when I'm telling you because I would tell you,
Mhm.
that was it when I got comfortable with it, I would tell you like what was
It's
going
always
through your
it was
mind.
always look, it would always be the same thing.
Yeah.
You're crazy, you're full of shit. In my mind, crazy full of shit. But at the same time, what if? I still had that openness enough to go, I mean, there's a possibility.
Well, what about all the times I knew things that there's no way I should have known? You know what my favorite one of those is? This is my favorite one. It's my favorite one.
What
So he started dating very quickly after I left, right?
was not that quick.
You were on the fucking dating app 3 days after, and Austin is the one who told me.
I did it and then I got rid of it because I'm like, I don't want to deal with
He
this
was
shit.
so mad. He was so mad at you. So
He
anyway,
was. Yep. Nope. You're right.
he met a girl that was long distance, and so we're not going to go down that.
That was
I know. Anyway,
months.
we we're not going to go through there. But I didn't know he had not told me he had started seeing someone in town. And I remember I came over, and mind you, I set up when we separated. My goal was you and I are going to be friends. We're going to be co-parents. We're going to be a family still. I'm not doing this shit like what happened with my other marriages. Like you and I were friends first. We're going to get back to that. We always had fun together. We always
But
got
you,
along.
there had
I
never been an issue with us being friends.
no.
And me, just me being me.
Yeah.
I have not ever had an issue of being friends with an ex, have I?
No, because well, you and Heather weren't always in a great place, but you are now.
No,
Yeah.
nobody ever is in a great place right after.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think
in
we were
time,
pretty, I mean, we
yeah,
just carried
we did
on.
fine.
I mean, we had our
Yeah.
moments, but and it was still hurt, but we carried people were like, you guys are we'd go out to lunch on every Sunday. People were like, aren't you divorced? Aren't you getting divorced? But anyway, so
Oh no, no, you gotta tell us.
what?
Dinner
What
with
was I
the
talking about
ex.
though? Because I want to finish that story. Oh,
Oh, okay.
I set it up so that we were close, right? So anyway, I came
Yeah.
over one day and he's standing on the side of the bar that he always stands on doing his bills or where he puts all, how men just have a little area where they put all their shit. And I'm on the other side and he's standing there, we're talking. I look at him and are you dating someone in town? And you should have seen his fucking face because nobody knew. And
No.
he's like, I hate it when you do that. Because I'm like, I don't know. Like, how do you know that? Like, why do you ask me this question anymore? Like, I know things. Like, I'm psychic. Hello.
She's not wrong. Like, no. The realization when she said that, I'm like, because I was in that long distance.
Yeah. And I knew about that. And I had called you out on that. I was like, you're
Right.
repeating a pattern. You're like, I'm right. I
Right.
am. And he cut it off. And I'm pretty sure she still follows me.
Oh,
Yeah. She's
great.
on my
No.
TikTok.
He
Hey.
her husband,
Uh-huh. Oh,
the
she got
guy
married?
before me. Oh yeah, she got married.
Oh,
The guy before me,
yeah.
and then it was me, and then she married him.
Oh,
He still stalks my TikTok,
that's
which
weird.
I don't ever post there. So
I
why?
know you haven't
Anyway,
posted on TikTok in a long time.
I
Anyway,
know.
so I didn't know he was dating anybody.
No.
But
Hmm.
I walked in that day and I knew
Are you,
immediately.
are you dating somebody in town? I'm like, stop.
But
It's not how this works.
I mean, that's not the first time that's happened. So And the other thing that happened was I remember this night especially too. We were in bed and Ginger kept jumping like 5 to 8 feet off the ground in the corner by the door of our bedroom. And it was because there was galactic beings right there. And you
Right.
started to, I don't know if you saw the coloring, but you or an outline or you saw something there. And I know that
The
it
orbs.
it freaked you out
It was the orbs.
because cats obviously they cats are aliens in a cat body, let's be honest. So
Again,
so
this is where I go, this bitch is crazy. But
he has
in the same time, she's
he saw like
probably right.
you saw things, you felt things, you witnessed things being in my presence and energy. So it always made me wonder like how you ever could have discounted anything that was happening. But I think you just had such a strong fear of it being
Mm,
real.
it was a fear, but it was also
Well, uncertainty is scary. When you don't understand something, it's fearful.
right. But at the same time, it was also, this is my wife. I want to support her and want to try to understand what is going on. And
How do you
I
think I
want,
could have helped you understand better?
I don't know if you could have. I don't know if there's a way because still in my mind, it's like, space. But at the same time, there's shit that fucking doesn't explain itself in the end.
Yeah.
It's like there's no explanation. You can't. You can't explain it. You got to trust it, which is for me is hard.
Yeah.
It's near impossible, but dealt with it enough. You know, you didn't fix me just the once. There was twice. Something happened. I don't remember if it was. I think it was my back. My back had gone out, and I laid in bed. You put stones on me all through my back, and you did your hoodoo voodoo voodoo shit. And the next day, I was okay. I was better than I was the day before, and there's no reason I should have been
Yeah.
because nothing else changed besides those stupid rocks.
And then
But they were
whatever
there,
and what I was doing.
all of it.
Yeah.
But it, whatever. I mean, the greatest one was the food poisoning
Yeah.
because I would have died that night. Like my internally, mine thinking
Well, food
I
poisoning,
would have.
you can't take anything to make it better. It will only make it worse. And there's nothing the hospital can do. You have to write it out. And it usually takes 72 hours to clear your system.
It was 45 minutes at the
It's unheard
most.
of to
45
be
minutes.
healed in 24 hours, let alone less than an hour. My other favorite
Well,
story.
and I came home early.
Yeah.
I was driving
Yeah.
because I was in Renal when that happened.
Yeah.
When I ate the food, I was on my way back and I started feeling bad. And I'm like, okay, I'm going home. I got home and I go, I do not feel good.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what did you eat? Something for Dairy Queen. She's like, what the fuck? What are shrimp from Dairy Queen?
I mean, it's a really good question. It's like eating gas station sushi.
Hey, it's nothing wrong with gas station sushi. Not that I eat sushi, but okay. Anyway, yeah.
So then Hurricane Florence.
No.
I always wonder what you thought about this. I remember telling him, I
Don't,
said,
don't.
we're gonna
Are you doing the crystals in the corners?
yeah, I said, we're gonna grid the property. He said, what does that mean? I said,
No.
you're gonna dig a hole and I'm gonna drop rose quartz in it and do a little
Yeah.
blessing. And
All
so
four corners.
we actually, I think we did more than four corners, but we gridded the whole property. And then we had Ganesh. This motherfucker is sandstone, by the way. And we put him on the third step, second or third step of our front deck. And then we boarded everything up. There's Ganesh to proof that it's
There's
still in
Ganesh.
perfect condition.
Except for there was a spire. Remember?
Oh yeah.
It got blown over. and
Okay.
that broke. But
So,
that's it.
yeah.
Out of
So
all that sandstone,
we evacuated because this storm was supposed to hit at a Cat 5 and it reorganized right at the coast. The eye reorganized. So it still
to one.
had it still was a Cat 5, but technically the eye made it a 1 because it reorganized. But it sat and spun for days. So we had already evacuated to Charlotte. We were stuck out there
No.
for yeah, we evacuated to Charlotte because Austin had his birthday at the pizza guy next door's place.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
We
went to
weren't in
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Where were we?
I knew you were going to ask that when I couldn't
We were
remember the
like an
name of
hour from Asheville. I knew we were in,
Lincolnton.
huh?
We were in Lincolnton, North Carolina.
Lincolnton. Isn't that close to Charlotte?
It's close enough, but it's still not Charlotte.
Well,
We
nobody
were
knows where
in
the hell
Lincolnton.
Lincolnton is.
We were in the middle of nowhere, Charlotte, if you
Yeah.
want to put it
Yeah.
that way. I mean,
So
we're talking like
we were there for like almost a
Smyrna,
week.
North Carolina to Moorhead,
Yeah.
basically, you know.
So we were there for a while and then we had a hard time getting back because we had to navigate the tides because of the flooding was so bad.
Yep.
And so we get
But we
back
came back on a
uh,
Monday.
and so the you gotta understand the sound is across the street from us. And so the ocean water rose probably a good 3 feet, destroyed everything in the bottom of our garage, and you could see
Yep.
the watermark.
The water line, yep.
Yeah, the Ganesh should not have survived.
Nope.
Like we're talking 5 days of rain, the ocean salt water rising up. The Ganesh should have dissolved. It's sandstone. It should have dissolved. Um, our house probably should have been destroyed. All we had
Mom's and
was
dad's was.
we had wind driven rain that got in through a part where the guy messed up on our back porch and it
Yeah.
got in and it messed up some of our kitchen. And then I lost all my kids' ornaments that they made when I was a kid because I didn't put the box up. I didn't think about that. But
High enough.
we
Yep.
lost a
It
lot of
was
stuff at the bottom of our garage. But that was pretty much it. And a lot of people's homes around us were destroyed down to the studs. And our house was, we had a tornado that went over it because I think we lost the shed again for like the fourth time.
that's also
Um,
damn shit. So many times I got
that
rid of the
year, I think
shed.
we replaced our roof like 3 times from all the hurricanes and tornadoes. And it shouldn't have been. And I'm telling you, I know it's because I gridded that fucking property. And that Ganesh is a protector. Um, and the fact that it was sitting there, I remember thinking, and that's why we kept it because I was like, there's no fucking way this thing should have survived. Our house should have probably been destroyed. I mean, I mean, it's not like we had a brick house. Like your parents' house was fucking seemed
Destroyed
more
brick
steady,
house.
was steadier than ours, and it was destroyed. So
Still part
yes,
of the household.
I know. I can't believe you still have that.
Shut up. I have all this shit. You want to see? I mean, I still got the sage. I still got the rocks, crystals.
Which you've kind of come around to some of that stuff now.
Not going to deny it.
Yeah.
You know, do I don't know. Do I 100% believe it? No, but
But
I
you
mean,
noticed the difference when I used it or did things.
yeah. What I mean, what's the harm if I do have it?
Yeah.
None.
Well, and so I had bought him a piece of chrysocolla, raw
Still sits in my
chrysocolla.
fucking car.
And so when he was Ubering, whenever I felt the urge to text him and be like, how is it going? He'd get a ride right afterwards.
Yep.
And so it's like I would get this, it was like I had to connect to him and it would like light him up. And so people would find him. But then I
Yeah.
gave him this, and this stone, I swear to God, helped him so much to
I
manifest
used it all the time.
clients.
I held on. I'm like, I would be sitting in the car with it in my hand going, I need a ride, I need a ride, I need a ride. And I get a ride.
Yeah.
Or I'd call you and go, do you need a favor? I'm in Beaufort, which was 15, 20 minutes away. I need you to request me and then cancel.
Yeah.
And that would work.
Yeah.
And you know that trick actually works for other drivers.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. I got a buddy, Gene. He's
I
like,
didn't have to
you,
do that very much. I usually
you
just
know,
had to
you did
text
like
you.
twice. I think you did it like twice. But he sat there one night and he goes, I, I've had one ride. I said, dude, really? I'm like, I've had like four or five. He's like, yeah, I've had one. I said, are you on? He goes, yeah. I said, what are you on? X, XL? He goes, XL. I said, all right, hold on. So I went on the app, the Uber app. I requested him, canceled. 5 minutes later, he got a ride. It works. I don't, whatever voodoo hoodoo, you know.
So I mean, there's been enough evidence of it. I just wanted to know like what went through your thought process and what how did you feel?
You don't.
Because I mean, you obviously withdrew,
From
but
you?
yeah,
From everybody.
you withdrew from you definitely withdrew from me. And I mean it was a lonely time. Is there anything you think you would do? I know what I would do differently. What would you do differently if we had to repeat that all over again? If you could know then what you know now, what would you do different? I know this is a hard question to answer, but I think it's helpful for people.
Oh, I wouldn't let it fail. I mean, to this day, I will always love you. You, I mean, I would hope so, because I mean, shit, the kids are still here. I
I know,
love them just
and
as
I'll tell
much as
you,
I love you.
Savannah never liked any guy I was with after her father. She hated them all. She didn't
Well,
like Paul at first, but she really took
she
to him because
hated me,
she's still there.
and
She's about to turn 28.
she
They've gotten really close. They've been
very,
really close.
she's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
You know,
And Paul adopted Austin. So Austin's,
yeah.
I didn't want this podcast to necessarily just be about our marriage, but we did divulge a lot of things. But in 2015, that trip when we went to see my dad and Savannah graduate, Austin's biological father was supposed to see him, and he called instead and asked to have his rights withdrawn. And Paul did not hesitate. He said, "I will take him. I will choose him." And
Because
I think it's
I
kind of
was adopted
yeah,
by my
and for
father.
him to be adopted and then to adopt Austin, I'll never forget that. I think that and if you believe, if you know, for those of you who follow gene keys in human design, their gene key charts are inverted. So they're opposite each other. And I always say that we choose our bloodline, but we also choose our parents. And I feel like, and for whatever reason, there was more than me running from my life. There was more to it than that. I think there was things that were destined to happen. And again, Paul's you've been my greatest teacher in me realizing what I need in
Thank
a
you.
relationship
Say the same about you too.
and what I need in a man and what I will never do again. I learned I don't mother people anymore. I want to be playful. And I remember I'll never forget this. We were at the Indy 500 and I don't know if it was then, but it might have been after, but you had said to me it was the most attracted you had ever been to me was at the Indy 500. And the reason why that was because I wasn't responsible for anyone. I wasn't responsible for you. I definitely had no kids around me. And I was just fun and flirty and playful and having a good time. And
We had a
that's
blast.
how I wanted to be. But in my everyday life with you, I was mothering you, whether we were at the beach and you
Yeah,
drank too much or whatever. I was always in that masculine role, and that's not attractive. And
I get it.
I never wanted to repeat that again. So I learned what to do, what not to do. I learned who I wanted to be and who I wanted in a relationship. And I think I would still be repeating cycles had I not had to face that. And it was super painful, but and I'm still rebuilding from it. Honestly, it's been 5 years since I left, and I still am not. My life is still not rebuilt from what I walked away from. But I was angry and resentful for a long time, and I'm not anymore. I'm grateful. And I remember the day you came to my apartment, and I said, I need you to see our I need you to see our marriage and our relationship through my eyes. And I went through it from the very beginning. And I think it was the first time you realized how little effort you put in.
Yep.
And so that's why I wanted to know, like, what would you have done different?
Just there's I don't know.
I think I know what I would have done. So that's why.
I know, and I can, yeah. It's hard for me to say what I would have done different. You know, being set in the ways that I was already in was hard for me to break from. I should have been more open to you, your feelings. You know, I don't know if I can. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know.
And this is why that whole saying, like, if he wanted to, he would. There's some truth to that, but sometimes they don't know how, or they don't have the
That's
capacity, the tools. They never learn the tools to do so.
oh, I was look. I mean, mom left my biological when I was one. Never. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was me and her until I was 8. Then I got a dad, and my mom's being my mom. And you know
I
how
think, yeah,
emotional
she is very
it,
emotional.
it makes it hard. So for me to, I didn't have the father figure.
Your dad's not an emotional person either.
God,
He's a
no.
very analytical person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To this day,
Yeah.
he's gotten better, but
Yeah.
he has a problem um showing emotion and admitting he needs help. And
Oh my God, yes. That man's ended up in the hospital more times than I can count because he's stubborn.
no. So, he just had the other hip done.
No, I didn't know. Hip
Yep, he had
replacements are
the
so safe and easy now, though.
yeah, well, 10 years later than the last one he had.
Yeah.
So that makes it hard.
I remember the
10 years
first time
difference.
I remember I had Mo come to me and he was sick. I felt like Mo was sick. I was afraid Mo was going to die. Um, Mo is Bill Paul's dad's horse. Um, it's
Geronimo.
Geronimo, but we call him Mo.
Wait, no.
What? Because he
I
has
call
one
him
eye.
I call him Geronimo
Oh,
because he lost the eye.
he only has one eye. Anyway, uh,
No, he lost the eye.
yeah, I know.
Geronimo, not Geronimo.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, I feel compelled to tell Bill that there might be something wrong with
Cancer
Mo.
in the eye was
And
the yeah,
and so I had to go over there. And this is a man that really didn't understand what I did or what was happening to me. He kind of
or believe in any
nobody
manner,
ever
shape, or
addressed
form.
it either. Like Teresa and Bill never addressed it. It was always kind of like something we just kind of bypassed over. She'd make her little comments that she was very passive aggressive. She probably still is. But anyway, not the point. I'm not here to bash anybody, but
I
that
know.
I get there and I have to tell this was the hardest thing for me to do because I'm thinking this man is going to never talk to me again. It was really hard. And it was actually a good conversation, but I think it was the next day Mo had a fever.
The cancer in the eye was not a good time. That was
Yeah.
a lot for him. So,
Yeah.
but still alive. I still want to get him a googly eye just to put on that. That
I
that
still
just
feel
get
Mo every now and then, but uh I just knew how like Bill was a Marine and horses are so healing and they're so good for PTSD and he's very connected to that horse. And
absolutely.
I thought if Mo dies, Bill's gonna die. Like Bill's not gonna survive Mo dying. And he's a pretty old he's up there in age. Isn't he like
Yeah,
35
no,
now or 25 or something?
25, I think.
Yeah,
20-ish.
I mean, horses have good lives, but he's up there in age. I thought I thought if Mo dies, Bill's gonna die, and I have to tell him that something's wrong, that I've had
Right.
this sense. And I wasn't wrong, but I think it was a shocker for him. That was a hard conversation to have. That was a real hard conversation to have. But going back to what we were talking about, I know what I would do different. If I could go back and I knew now, or knew then what I know now, I would have communicated and drew you a fucking roadmap of what I needed. And you know what? That might not have changed anything. You might not have still been able to do it, but at
I would have,
least,
but I would have at least attempted.
yeah,
I can at least
I
say
believe that.
that
I believe that. And
because
now,
I wanted things to be right,
yeah.
and I wanted to do the right things.
And
I
I would have
did
stopped
not know
mothering
how.
you. But my fear was if I stopped mothering you, you wouldn't have done anything. Like no wife wants to nag or harp on a man. We don't. And when you're married to someone and they're constantly telling you something, how do you think they feel that you're not changing or supporting them, or because you would say okay, 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 and your actions never followed through, So
Gives you heart.
yeah, but it's like you keep saying
I
you're, so
that, but that
it was like a
was
cycle. It was just we went
I know.
around and around and around. But I would have communicated and said, and even now when I date, I tell that what like the in the first few dates, I'm like, a hug will fix 90% of my problems. Like I just need to be held. I just need to
But
be seen, heard, and held. And I don't need you to do anything else that will
yeah,
fix
but
majority
at
of
the
my
same
problems.
time, with you had gone through so much emotional trauma and physical trauma
Yeah,
that when I even tried to hug you or
that's
wanted
true.
to, I felt it wasn't received well.
Well, yeah, because I was still healing from all the
I
abuse memory that was
now
coming up.
now I
Yeah.
know this, but at the
Yeah.
time I didn't.
Even
So
my
like,
sexual trauma, because you were there when the flashbacks came back of my
you know,
molestation.
which was the hard part for us. We because our
We had already separated at that point.
yeah, but our sexual life was non-existent.
It was for a very long time. In the
So
beginning, even though.
yeah. No, no, I know. But that, but we didn't know about the trauma.
No, I
Like
always had a
you hadn't
feeling, but it was never
right,
valid. There was never any evidence.
right. So you didn't like once you figured out what had happened,
Yeah. And I mean, I
that's
had
when
been
we
raped
knew.
several times, but I didn't the flashbacks I remember because I remember how freaked out I was. And then Anita, the shaman I was working with, she
Right.
regressed me. And I saw who it was, which we are not going to say that name on
No,
this show.
nope.
But that was a shock to both of us. And it was a hard thing. And we were already separated at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, we've
yeah,
gotten to that point
we were
in
already
our
separated at that
life.
point. And
But
because
and we
we
were
had
at a
lived
good
together
place
for like
in our life and you
four,
told me about it.
yeah,
And
we lived together
I
for like 4 months after we separated.
yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I didn't think about that. And that was the same with my second husband. I remember my best friend at the time back then, Dave was a very touchy person, and my skin would crawl.
right.
And I hated it. I was always, get off me, quit touching me. And my love language is physical touch. I crave physical touch. Always craved physical touch, but it made my skin crawl. And she used to say to me, "You're going to miss that when it stops." And when he stopped trying, I mean, I had a responsibility in my losing my second marriage just as much as he did for having an affair. But um, I did miss it. And now I can't, I have to be with someone who has the same love language. I have to have someone who's super touchy. But I had to heal the sexual abuse trauma. I had to heal a lot of that, and I was able to do that. And so, this is the hard part. If your spouse is going through an awakening, awakening is not all about their psychic abilities. It's not about what they see or sense or feel. All an awakening is becoming more aware of yourself. And when you become more aware of yourself, you have to look at all the things that you have repressed in your body, all the things that you avoided, distracted yourself from, medicated. You have to heal that shit, and you what you look at disappears. So you just have to face it and process it and feel it. And it's so incredibly painful to do that in the beginning because there's so much. And so if there's anything I can advice I can give you is just be willing to sit in the dark with them, because 9 times out of 10, the spouse or whoever it is that's in your life, whether it's your friend or your husband or your wife, they don't know what's up from down for a lot of that time either. And we don't know what we don't know. And we're going through this process that is super confusing. Our sensitivities are off the charts. We become sensitive to food. We become sensitive to chemicals. I became sensitive to noise and being in public and all of those things. I had to relearn my whole entire existence.
Right.
So it's so much for the person who's going through the awakening. And I can't imagine, because I haven't been on the other side of it, to witness that and not be able to understand it and not have that person be able to articulate it back because they're still in the process, you know?
Yeah.
So the best piece of advice I can give is just be willing to sit in the unknown, in the dark with them, and not to let them know they're not alone. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to support you, but I'm here, and I'll see you and I'll hold you, or I'll do whatever I can. I think for me, the thing that I needed from you most was after my dad died and after all the money ran out because I was going through so much, when my adrenal fatigue got to the worst point and I couldn't find a doctor to help me, and I literally couldn't get out of bed. And then at night I was wired and tired. And I was, when you go weeks, and I went weeks without sleep.
Hmm.
I was not in a good place. And what I
Right.
needed the most from you at that time was for you to financially carry the family. And I remember coming to you a couple of times and asking you to cover my portion of the rent. And you didn't want to do it, and you didn't do it. And I remember saying to you, like, I've covered your portion a few times. And there was a few times that I covered your portion of the rent. And I thought, or the mortgage. And I was like, again, it led me to a space to where I was like, well, now I've got to sell my dad's truck. And there was two reasons why. One is I needed to be able to pay the bills. I had no money. And two, there was a coach that I wanted to hire that I thought might help me to start making money in my business again. Little did I know that it had nothing to do with that. It was everything to do with how sick I was and how
Right.
exhausted I was. And so I sold my dad's truck, which I still regret to this day, to
You and me both.
cover because that truck was supposed to go to Austin, and
I know.
to cover our everyday bills. And then I talked Jessica down to a lower amount to be able to do that. And then it was like months, it was only a few months later that I left. And you guys, I had no vehicle. I had no vehicle. I wasn't making money in my business. And I had stage 3 adrenal fatigue where I was so fucking exhausted. And this is the main reason why I didn't want to fight in court over selling the house, retirements, whatever. I couldn't. My second divorce was so gnarly, and it took forever, and we spent ridiculous amount in lawyer fees. I didn't want to put the kids through that. Austin was attached to his bedroom because that was my dad's bedroom. Um, he didn't want to leave the dogs. I couldn't take the dogs. I didn't want to disrupt my kids. Austin was already mad at me that I was leaving. Um, and it was just easier to just walk away. And I'm the one who paid for that, right? I'm the one who is still rebuilding from that. But I don't regret it because I had no fight in me. It's sad, and I talk about this a lot in the book I just finished writing, and Holy Grail. But it was when you wake up one day and you realize that you've spent 41 years of your life, 40 years of your life taking care of everybody else, including myself. And when you walk away and you have no one else to take care of but yourself, and you still can't do it because you burnt yourself out taking care of everybody else, that now you can't even take care of yourself. when I tell you that that was probably one of the hardest pills for me to swallow was like, I can't even take care of myself right now, and I don't have anybody to take care of me. And I felt that way before I actually asked you for a divorce, but it was like, what do you do in that situation? And I have felt that many times since then in the last 5 years of trying to rebuild my life. And I ask Tanya all the time, and I even ask Julie, I'm like, what do you do when you can't take care of yourself and you don't have anyone to take care of you? Like, when am I going to find that person who wants to take care of me? And I'm not looking for a man to financially support me or to be all those things, but I wanted you to take care of me, you know? And
I
so
understand.
if I could, if there was things that I wish that would have changed, that would have been one of them,
Okay.
you
Mm.
know, saying, heal, I will figure out a way to take care of the
I
family.
mean, I hear what you're saying, and in my response to this would be, I think I came a long way.
You did, you did what you were in a capacity to do.
Like,
And today you've come a long way. Like from when we got separated, Paul will do just about anything he can for me today if I need it. And I will not deny that. And you have done a lot for me in that time. And it's always appreciated. And so I do want to acknowledge that. And him and I have a great relationship. We FaceTime, we chat. I get along with his girlfriend when I'm there. He's been with the same girl that I talked about he met in town. Like it's the same relationship.
it'll be 4 years July.
Yeah. Hey Shannon, if you're listening. So it's
Probably
like
not, but
I know, but we have a good relationship. We communicate better now than I think we did in our marriage.
absolutely.
And so people always ask me about us and, why aren't you guys back together? Or why did you guys get a divorce? Even after we separated, like again, to, we'd go to our favorite off the hook place. We would drink and eat, and have brunch and laugh with the people that knew us and nobody understood it. I was like, we just can't be married.
The only family that's ever been to fucking a graduation party with the ex-girlfriend, ex-fiance, the ex-wife, the
And the current
current
girlfriend.
girlfriend. Yeah,
And we were all
have
fine.
pics. Yeah, no no
I mean, I think
problems.
Shannon was probably the most uncomfortable out of anybody.
Beyond, she always will be.
Yeah. And
She
and your parents, I think your parents came around. Your parents were weirded out by our agreement for a long time too.
I don't I don't agree with my parents and their thoughts of you.
I never did
Will
anything to
I
warn it.
voice that to them? No.
I was
But
so
at the
good to
same
your
time,
parents.
my parents are my parents.
Yeah.
They will always be my parents. I'm not going to change that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with their thoughts on everything.
I never understood what I did to them because
It
like
wasn't what you
I
did to them.
no, it was even before
It
we got
was
a
me.
divorce.
But it was still me. It's
Yeah.
always going to revolve around me for
Yeah.
them. You know,
Yeah.
they knew I wasn't happy. They knew you weren't happy. Shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
You were downhill. I mean, and it's not like I was complaining. They just understood me and my,
And
you know,
I became the problem.
basically.
Yeah.
I would assume yes. We had our discussions about, the all the stuff, and at the same time I was like knocking it. Like it was hard for me to understand, but of course for them it's out of their league.
Oh, they're in a dense box. There's no openness at all. And that's fine. That's how some people are, but that's again, it's hard when your parents are involved, but one of the things I remember telling Austin was when the day you get married, or even if you have a girlfriend, I will never come in between you and her ever. I will never be that person. I will not do that. And I will never put you in a position to where you have to choose one over the other.
Right.
And because of what I went through, you know, um, and it's your parents, they're always going to side with you. And I never expected them otherwise. But before we were even divorced, before they even knew that that was a possibility, they already put gas on the fire by the way that they treated me, you know? So there's that. But at the end of the day, we are here. We're you and I are in a good place. I'm grateful
Absolutely.
for the time that we were together. I'm grateful that you were a very hard mirror and teacher for me. You have grown. You are much more open. You communicate much better. You um, have had no choice but to become a better parent because I left and became a nomad. And
Yeah.
Savannah picked up a lot of my slack, which I did not want, but that's between
I'm
you and her.
beyond grateful for her.
Yeah, it's kind of wrecked my relationship with her, but it
And I'm sorry for that. That's not was never an intention, but I'm
no,
grateful
I
to
mean she
have
has
her in my
responsibility in that.
life,
Yeah.
and she is beyond helpful in
Yeah.
this life.
But
Um,
it made you have to become a more present parent because you
mm,
weren't really involved in a lot of those things because you weren't
no,
around,
you
you know?
did most of it because I was working.
Yeah. So it me leaving kind of while I left you in a more cushy environment and I had to take the hard road. I chose that and I have to take ownership for that. But it forced you to kind of have to step up and be more of a parent, you know,
Right.
and that made you grow as well. So I think it worked out in the way that it was supposed to. And um my intention with doing this show today and having you on was to really just talk about what you went through and our different sides of going through an awakening because
Sorry, I'm
it's
hard with
so
words.
it's so challenging, but I don't think we did a bad job. I mean, I don't.
I hope I gave some insight. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, the truth is neither one of us really understood what we were going through, and we didn't know how to communicate. And I think the key things here are, you know, get help, find someone to help you communicate if you can, and be open to learning and
like your
growing.
ex-wife. I mean, it worked for me. You can't deny it. I mean,
Yeah,
you're the reason I talk,
yeah,
if anybody, to you.
yeah, you do. And
And I appreciate you.
be
And
willing to
I'm,
sit in the dark
you
with
know,
them, you know, be willing to
nope.
sit in the unknown with them and support them and have their back, right? So have their back over the naysayers, over the people, you know, because it's so important when people are going through trauma healing and doing those kinds of things. They need to know that someone is there. They need to know they have a safety net. And I definitely didn't have. I had zero safety net, and I still do don't have a safety net. But when you're married, that I think it should be 100, 100.
And
And we didn't, it was
it,
never 100, 100.
no, no, I agree. But I mean, if anybody's a safety net for you now, it should be me. I mean, I'm more here for you now than I ever was in our marriage.
Yes, 100% true.
So, I mean, if you need a fallback, I will always do what I can for you. You know that.
I
I
do.
will. I love you more now, probably than when we were married. And
You know, it's
can't
weird.
ex
I never really felt like you were in love with me when we were married.
I was absolutely in love with you. I
I never
just
felt that
now
though.
I just because of the children and everything and the fact that we're still able to be where we are and
Yeah.
you didn't try to take me for everything and anything. I am grateful and I'm thankful and I will always love the fact that you were compassionate enough to give us the opportunity, at least for me, to raise the children and take care of them in our home.
Yeah.
appreciate that. So, you know, it's hard. It'll never be what you want it to be, what I want it to be. I mean, I have no expectation of marriage. I was 33. Yeah, right?
When we got married?
Didn't I?
No,
No.
you
I was
turned
30.
40 before I moved out there.
I was 33 when I had a kid.
Yeah, I say because I remember I wasn't there for your 40th surprise party where you got the eye patch when you wanted the iPad. Do you remember that?
Yeah, fuck you. Don't
Anyway,
remind
we're not
me.
going to go into
That
that story, but no,
bullshit
you were in your
Steve and
you
Donna
were
Williamson
you were
brothers.
I think you were like 42 or 43. You were in your early 40s
That's in
when we
my
got married.
40s. Yes. Yes. Yeah, you're right. I was 30. I was thinking
Yeah,
33.
because you're
33 is when
seven
I had my child.
you're 7 years older than me. That's yeah,
Yep.
is what it is.
Yeah. I'm 52.
You're an old man. Just kidding. Anyway, well, again, I don't know if we accomplished what we set out to do, but I
This
think
is you. You asked me. I just joined,
yeah, I know. Well,
You
and
want
it's
to do
been
it again? Let me know.
no
We'll
no
do it
no no
again.
no we're not re-recording.
No, no, like you want to like go on, like
Oh
go further.
oh I
Fine.
see.
Let me know.
Yeah, I think if anything, I've written about our story, which he has not read my book. I don't think he's not a reader, number
I'm not.
one,
I fucking hate reading.
but I think
Dude,
for a
5
long
minutes
time
into
you
a
were
book, I'm
afraid.
asleep.
I think you were also kind of afraid to read the book.
No, never
No,
afraid. I
you were not
just
afraid.
don't read. I
Yeah.
do not enjoy reading. Reading is not. It's not that
Well,
rainbow for me.
I am gonna record Holy Grail in audio form once
Then I'll listen to it.
this book is done. But I would rather you honestly listen to this next book than that one,
Then
because
make the other one into a book.
it'll just take a while for that. But anyway, he hasn't read it, and so other people have read it.
No,
They've heard my story, but I think it's kind of interesting and different to bring you on and for us to share our story because it is our story. Um, in real time,
forever.
for people to hear and and validate some of the things that I have said and hear your perspective. And I don't know, I just think it's an opportunity for deeper healing and for people to kind of understand me more and the process that we went through and hopefully give people some insight if they are going through an awakening and have a spouse going through an awakening and maybe they can take something away from this that can help them, keep their marriage intact. Um, because nobody ever wants to get divorced, you
Oh,
know? I mean,
last
yes,
thing I want to do.
and I've been
I
married
didn't
three
want to fail.
times.
I didn't want to fail.
I know. And I don't
And
think
last
it's a
thing I want to do was
fail.
fail.
I don't think it's necessarily a failure because I don't believe that I feel like it's rare to meet someone and be married for the rest of your life because you have to be able to grow together. And I outgrow people very quickly.
Beyond.
I evolve very fast. I have my whole life, even before this. Um, but I would get married again. I love being a wife. I love nurturing. I love taking care of my house and my family and my person. I'll just never mother them again. I'll never be in my masculine energy again. I don't want to do that. So I've learned a lot, but I would still get married. I'm a wife. I'm not a girlfriend. I don't know how to do that. I don't, this dating stuff is like, I hate this. I'm like, here, give me your key. I'm moving in. I'm just going to be your wife now.
But
Yeah.
trust me, I won't do it again after this.
Yeah.
What I'm in now, if it happens, whatever happens, I'm not. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for it.
I think I burned that bridge for you.
Yeah, you're fine. It wasn't just you. I
Yeah.
mean,
You were never really into marriage anyway. That wasn't your thing. You didn't propose to me like, I just want to marry you. It wasn't like that. It was like, we have to buy a house. We need to get married kind of a thing. And we
like,
did. And there was no big proposal. There was
no,
nothing big and romantic.
right?
It wasn't special. It was just like a
No, you're
business
you're
deal.
absolutely right. The only thing that was special about it was Austin was there with us when when I brought you the ring.
Yeah. But we'd
You know,
already agreed before then to get married anyway.
right.
Yeah. So it was one of those things, but it is what it is. It's our story, and I think it's kind of cool that we got to share it together. Because when
And
this
we'll
next
continue for the next however long our kids are around,
well,
or
I
we
can
are.
I can tell you right now when this next book comes out, there's going to be questions. People are going to have questions, and so I'm really grateful that you are still a part of my life and that you were willing to do this. And I
Oh, of
always tell
course.
people, like, when I get into a relationship with somebody, I always say, like, you will eventually, if we make it a certain point, you're going to meet Paul because,
Hmm.
when Austin gets married, when Austin graduates from boot camp, when Savannah gets married or has a kid, like, we're always going to be a family, and him and I are always going to be close.
Right.
And it's not like you have to worry about we want to get back together with each
No.
other or anything like that. Do we love each other? Yes, but we can't be together like that anymore. And so there's not any of that. It's just that you're gonna have to be okay with this. And 9 times out of 10, most men are very receptive on my end. They're like, yeah, that's awesome. That because I think it has a good reflection on who I am as a person, number one,
Right.
and who you are as a person. And so it's just that thing. And so I'm grateful that you are willing to come on and be vulnerable, which is not something that's easy for you to do.
Duh.
Uh, and
Have you
to
met me?
and to share this story. And I even say in my next book, I feel kind of guilty sometimes or bad when I talk about our story because there's so many things that you did that were painful. And I say like 5 times in my new book, like, this is not, I don't want people to think bad about you. Like, these things needed to happen. These things
Right.
needed to happen. Yes, they were painful, but I had to be woken up to what I was doing. I had to be woken up to who I was being and where we were. And um, I that's why I wanted you to know that I feel like, you are my greatest teacher, and I'm grateful for the pain that came, but also, just it made me who I am today. And if I would have stayed in San Diego, is there a chance my dad would still be alive? I wholeheartedly believe that. And that's hard for me because I don't
Right.
want to regret being with you because it made me who I am today. And I've helped thousands of people, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had not had to face the pain of my entire life with zero support. I don't think I would have been able to transform and change and become what I needed to be. I think I had to be abandoned again because I was constantly abandoning myself. That's what I was doing in all of my marriages, including with you. It's what I did with my father. I abandoned myself. And that's my wound. Yes, my mom abandoned me. Yes, my dad emotionally abandoned me, but I learned to abandon myself. And when I chose myself was the day I asked for a divorce, and I chose myself. And in that, I lost my daughter, and I don't see my son a lot, and I lost my dogs, but I've saved a lot of lives. And that's what I came here to do, you know. My kids are good. They're fine. They're in safe hands, and they're well-adjusted kids. If we had an apocalypse tomorrow, I'd bet on Savannah and Austin. You know, I
Agreed.
raised them to be strong, independent children,
Yep.
and so I know they're okay. But anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. I just want to say thank you for being on the show, and um, I just appreciate it. And I don't
Of
want,
course.
I want people to know that, everything is by design and including what we went through.
You're welcome. Glad we could have this conversation.
Yeah. But I will see you guys in the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.